Good morning, everyone. We have come to the 9th episode of the Leadership Lounge. We are very happy to see that you are following us. And today we thought it would be time to talk about feedback. Feedback is a word that can evoke many different feelings in people depending on who you are and the experience that you had with it up until now. So we wanted to give some thoughts around how to make feedback easier. So even if it's easy, you can make it even easier. So it's said that feedback can establish trust. And to some degree, I do agree. If you have established a culture that allows for feedback, you can learn a lot of things about yourself and the other person, the other person's perceptions and feelings when you receive feedback. And we all have our blind spots, right? If you insist that you don't have any blind spots, I can tell you that you have huge blind spots instead. So we all have blind spots. And a blind spot is a behavior that you have that everyone around you is aware of, but you are not. And it especially shows up when you're under pressure or when you are maybe, you're letting that mask fall down, or you don't have the time to put on your mask and things happen and you have those blind spots. It could be a behavior that you have, you are aware of a behavior, but you don't realize the impact that it has on people around you. For example, you think you are being serious and decisive, but your people are actually scared of you. They find you very, very intimidating. So it's like the difference between your intention and the real impact that you have on people. So that is the blind spot. So you can decrease that blind spot by receiving feedback, and that creates trust indeed. So feedback can contribute to trust because you are expanding that arena between you and another person where you can trust each other more. But what I would like to say is that you should first of all ask yourself, before you step into someone's space with the intention to give feedback, ask yourself, do I have the permission to give feedback? Have I established trust with this person that I now will give feedback to, so that the feedback I want to give is going to, first of all, be welcomed and understood? You can imagine yourself if you would receive feedback from somebody that you don't really trust, that that person has your best interest in mind, or that the person really gives feedback because they want to improve the situation for you and the common good. If you don't feel that, you're going to be very skeptical when you receive feedback. You might shut down and you might become even defensive. There might be people around you in your proximity that, siblings, family, even within your closest family, that you just feel like this person cannot give me feedback on that topic because I don't think that that person is a role model for me in that topic. So why would I listen? So that is something you need to think about before you give somebody feedback. Am I the person that can give this feedback? And have I established that trust with this person so that what I am saying is even going to go in, be understood? So that's what I think it's more important to first create a trust, and then you can give feedback. And when you have that real trust with somebody, the door for feedback can be wide open. You can have that relationship if you have established that culture of trust. The feedback can be very, very, you can be very candid in your conversations and in your feedback if you have invested a lot in the relationship and the trust. But it takes two to tango, right? So it's not only you who give the feedback who needs to do some work. It's also on the receiver end. What do you say about that, Tasneem?
Yeah, I really like your perspective about building trust. And I agree. I think that you're absolutely right that when it has to filter through, and if there's trust, only then there'll be openness to receive whatever is coming your way. So that's the fundamentals of communication. My perspective on this is, so I'll speak from a manager-employee relationship, and um, agree that I think people look up to leaders and they're looking for cues. And perhaps the onus is a little bit on you first to build that trust and that relationship. So they're open to that feedback when it comes your way. But as you said, it takes two to tango. And I think both parties have to want that relationship. So you both have to, just as you would work in any other relationship at work as well, you have to invest in the key relationships and you need to nurture them. And you have to build that rapport and that trust so that when it comes time for feedback, it is given and received well. So on that, my view is that I think feedback is never about you. It's always about the other person. And for me, the three key things keeping in mind when you think about giving feedback as a manager. Does it serve the person in front of you? Does it affect their growth? Does it serve them? Does it serve your clients? And does it serve the business? And if it doesn't meet any of these criteria, it's a feedback about you and your style and how you want them to do things. It's not about the other person. And therefore, I think that when you genuinely care about the people who work with you, it comes across. They know what your intention is. And I think the way you will also speak about it will completely change, because going from, feeling icky about giving feedback, you're suddenly going to feel confident because you know that your intentions are right. The reason you're giving feedback, whether it's the way a certain situation was handled, an email was written, or how perhaps something a person does that doesn't resonate well, is because either it is not it doesn't affect, it affects badly the performance of the team or the business, something that is not acceptable when you interact with clients. If everyone has a client, internal, external, whichever environment you're working in, or your direct growth. And I think that when people see that, they can resonate and they can appreciate. Because think back to when you were a little younger. Everyone wants to develop and grow. People want feedback, and managers don't give feedback because they think it's about them. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to have this hard conversation, but it doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't. If you have the best interest of the person in mind and you give effective and fair feedback, the person will be open to receiving it. And that's usually the perspective that I would take when it comes to feedback. Yeah. Alison, what do you have to say?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, you're both absolutely right. Like developing this aura of trust and wanting to help somebody and better someone. It can be really difficult for somebody to receive and somebody to give. I mean, I was 17 years in corporate, and I don't think I ever enjoyed a feedback situation, whether I was giving it or receiving it. No matter what my intention was, I still found that conversation really, really difficult. As a receiver, it's like, I want to grow, but you're not giving me anything tangible that I can hold on to here. I kind of know that you want my best, but, I'm not getting it because you're not giving me anything to hold on to so that I can really improve. And so I always had that frustration when I was receiving feedback. And then giving feedback, because I was always so hesitant to receive it, giving it, I always gave the compliment sandwich. And that kind of hid any sort of critique, and also didn't give them anything really to hold on to and move forward with and grow from. So when I was sort of having a look around for my coaching business, just on feedback and leadership and things like that, one of these concepts really popped out at me was instead of feedback, feed forward. And I know, Sophia, you've gone into this as well in your studies too. And I always thought, give me something to hold on to, what can I do next? And the idea of feed forward is, if you're a leader, discuss what's gone on, make it clear what's going on, what were your expectations, maybe what hasn't been met. But the thing is, really focus on what you can both do together going forward. So maybe you give some advice, maybe you coach the person that needs to develop, and so they can come up with their own solutions, because when people come up with their own solutions, they stick much better. So it's very much a forward-looking process. And if your manager, if you're receiving feedback and your manager isn't doing this, ask them for advice. Instead of saying, okay, now you're saying in this meeting, I seemed very standoffish or critical, and they can't give you any specific examples. I've had that. It's really annoying. Say, okay, in the next meeting, what would you suggest I do to, make the situation different? And then, people love giving advice, and it's much more forward-looking. So next time in a meeting, we can try this, and then you can throw in your ideas as well. So you kind of come to a growth agreement between the two of you, and it's much more forward-looking and much less combative. Because there was a recent Gallup poll that said only 26% of employees think that feedback is effective in any way on their performance in a positive manner. So the feedback loop at the moment is not working. It's just not working. So try going in with a slightly more forward-looking perspective and see what happens. I think this is a fantastic way to look at it. Okay, that's it for another week. Another fantastic topic, another one we could talk about forever. It brings up so many feelings and memories. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any topic recommendations or any feedback for us, absolutely leave it in the comments below where you're watching this, or contact us directly. Just reach out. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.